All right, welcome back. This is a segment where I am going to tell you a story about something that happened to us. That is something that you should be aware of, but it's kind of a messed up little adventure, but in the end it turned out okay, so I can't complain how it went. Okay, let me take you to 2020. This is the beginning of October, and we are going to do a 4-day trip to St. Louis. Now, on day number 1, we shoot several locations in Indiana. On day number 2, we shoot several locations in Illinois, knowing that we are then going to have 2 days in St. Louis. We go ahead and shoot day number 3 all over St. Louis. And this is the time of year again, this is fall, so you only have till about 7:30ish, if you're lucky when you're shooting. So we went to the Calvary Cemetery in St. Louis. Now, I know lots of you know Calvary. Many of you have been there. Calvary is a world-famous cemetery. There are people like Tecumseh Sherman there, and many of other famous people. Definitely worth seeing. Dred Scott, a lot of people we had on our target list. We were actually in St. Louis in 2017, but we had very limited time, and we were across the street, and we didn't get to Calvary, so this time it was really important. However, mind you that Calvary is a Catholic cemetery, and we had been shooting and traveling all throughout, as I told you, the St. Louis area. We had many targets, as you can imagine, in any major city. If you're trying to get some of the famous people, you're here, there, you're everywhere. You're shooting all over the place trying to find people, strategically mapping, that is, to get to the appropriate people in the appropriate locations. So we arrive in late afternoon at Calvary Cemetery with several targets on the list. And we're blowing through them, we're getting to everybody, and we're getting near the end of the day. But the last person we're looking for is a famous female wrestler, but she has a flat grave marker. And of course, the usual sources: find a grave, billion grave, nobody can help me at all. Now, many of you know during the time of COVID, it's not as easy to get people in the offices to help you with anything. And also, the actual offices were closed by the time we were looking for her, though the gates were still open. Now, while we were looking for her, security told us they, let us know that they were going to be closing at 6 o'clock. So we're figuring, we probably have maybe a half hour at this point to continue looking for this in one other grave that's nearby. So we continue to search in the area. Time is ticking. I can't find it anywhere. I never actually did find this grave, which is the ultimate part that made me mad. So we just know we have an hour left and we have one more place to go. So we're like, screw it, let's go. We're going to get on out of here. And as we pull up to the front, the gates are locked. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't one of those cemeteries that when the gates are locked, I can just ring security. There is nobody to call. Because when the security gave us the warning at about 5:30, they didn't anticipate they had to come back and tell us anything. They figured we would be smart enough to leave. Well, we were presumptuous enough that in all the cemeteries we've been to, usually in the larger ones, cemetery security usually does an additional sweep. Well, they didn't at Calvary. So here we are trapped. I am calling numbers for the cemetery. Nobody is answering because all the numbers for the cemetery just go to the building we are standing next to. I can literally hear the phone ringing as I'm calling. Now, luckily for me, this happened to me in 2016 in a large cemetery in Tennessee. So I told Charlotte to go ahead and call the St. Louis police. Well, the dispatcher tells us that we need to call the fire department. We go ahead and make these calls a couple of times. The lady at the police department tells us we need to call 911. We're saying we don't need to call 911. We are not in danger. We are just locked in. But can they come and let us out? Lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, it took till nearly 7 o'clock for them to just let us out. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm thankful because Lord knows I could have ended up spending the night at Calvary Cemetery in St. Louis. Now, would I have been furious? Yes, I could have been. Would I have been? Probably. And was I furious? Absolutely, because I was looking for somebody in a flat grave that I wasn't that concerned about, but Charlotte was pretty insistent that we get. We ended up getting locked in. So now, knowing what we know, you know what I told you with time. We have less than 30 minutes of daylight. Charlotte looks at me and says, what if I can make it up to you and promise that we can hit 2 really famous graves that are only 20 minutes down the street? I'm like, let's go. Time is ticking. As we're driving, she's explaining to me the cemetery. It's right there on the outskirts of St. Louis. And as we pull into this cemetery, she reveals to me that we are going to be able to secure the locations of, and we will be able to visit the recently deceased Lou Brock. And I mean, he literally passed away within a week or so of that and just had the service a couple of days before we arrived. We also saw the burial location for Stan the Man Musial, the St. Louis Cardinal great, and to top it all off, we saw the beautiful and amazing and right out front mausoleum of the guitar and musical and rock and roll legend, none other than Chuck Berry. Yes, Charlotte, you did make up for causing us to get locked into the cemetery, because Chuck Berry was worth 60 minutes in Calvary any day of the week.